join me here today as we start a new game with Korea. Many people's favourite. A very powerful science civ with a really nice campus district. Or so I should say, eh? Because I personally don't believe it's that good compared to other much maligned campuses such as the observatory of the Lady Six Sky. I want to talk about that. So let's have a look at who we're playing as. We're playing as the newer career leader, not Seonduk, but Sejong. He has Hongul. When you complete your first technology from a new era, receive double your science, return as culture. So at least he has some nice feed into culture, because culture is very important, pretty much whatever you're doing. Climbing those trees, both trees, can be quite important. 3 kingdoms. Mines receives +1 science for every adjacent Seowon district. Farms receive +1 food for every Seowon adjacent Seowon district. They have the Hwacha as per usual. And they have the Seowon, a district unique to Korea. For scientific endeavors, replaces the campus. +4 science, flat out. But, huge caveats. -1 science for every adjacent district, meaning that they are completely opposed to the way I naturally like to build things. And yes, of course, like everyone you ever watch, we all have our own ways of playing. We have our own preferences. And for me, working with something that doesn't want to be adjacent to other districts can be quite frustrating. More frustrating than Vietnam, which is also frustrating, especially considering you can never build woods on floodplains, but that's for another time. Must be built on hills. That's not a small caveat either. That is pretty damn rough. And you'll see in this game just how tough that can be. That is incredibly precarious in regards to settlement and spawning, and the fortunes be with you that you have the kind of land to use this on. As you can see, we are already incredibly cramped. We have nobody less than Lautaro, which thank God we've befriended everybody, who you really don't want adjacent to you, especially when they have the better land. And we also have Portugal, meaning that our only possible answer is to go north. There are some Bobs up north. We have dealt with them. We are dealing with them. We have our own archer units to deal with them. We even got the boost for having 3 archers. We have some land over here that we are hoping to settle. But holy moly, is it going to be a difficult game where you don't have much food and not much abundant resources either. But that will be for the rest of the video. Welcome back. As you can see, we're going for late pyramids, but we won't be getting them because even though it is as late as 10:55, which I'm amazed it was even on the table by this point, it does go away imminently. We are making the audience chamber. And the reason why I like the audience chamber particularly, not only because we don't have that much land to settle, as you can see, compared to what we would like to have, but also we're playing a science game. And for most of the science final missions, other than the off-world missions, only one city can do that. You can have a governor at least in one city, right? So you're guaranteed to have that boosted. You're guaranteed to have the amenities in that city at least. So I think for science games, audience chambers are actually far more viable and reasonable than ancestral halls. I'd say the amount of cities that actually get to be part of the final process isn't very many at all. And the less cities, I think, the better the audience chamber becomes. So it's a bit of a balancing act. Anyway, one thing that we were able to do within the first 60 turns, actually a lot earlier, but I don't actually have a save for that. We can go to our timeline here to see when that actually happened. It was turn 31 when we actually established our religion, although it wasn't the first. Anyway, we were very lucky in this game, and we needed to because it offsets all the bad luck of not really having anywhere to settle with our religion. Because, of course, most of the land we're going to be settling is tundra, so why not have Dance of the Aurora to go alongside it? Very nice pantheon for us to get. Also, we got the Gurdwara and the work ethics. I am not a fan of early beliefs in culture games, because in culture games I'm much more focused on getting wonders, building districts that the wonders want, like the encampment or, harbors. And then later, when the city is grown, build with a priority theater squares and then holy sites. Why do I talk about this? Well, because that's a culture game. In a culture game, you won't see me doing that. In a science game, I very much do want work ethics and Gurdwaras and things like that, and things that benefit early game. Because I'd say Gurdwaras really lose their value later on in the game compared to some other beliefs that you can have. Like the cathedrals and things like that. But in the early game, you can build a couple holy sites, especially in areas that are struggling for food, as we no doubt will be. The Gurdwara is going to help us greatly in being able to push our way into at least respectably sized cities that can actually work for us and give us the industrial zones and campuses that we're looking for. Work ethic, of course, is always really nice. You need a lot of production to build spaceports. You need a lot of production to do science projects. So having the work ethic combined with the Dance Aurora is hopefully going to help us greatly in achieving those things. So, we're making the most of it. It's not the greatest start in the world, but it's something we can use, and we have tools to do so. Okay, you join us back, and we've built most of our city settlements. We've established most of our cities. Even one over here, purely for the sake of all the things. This is the most hilarious part of this game, I'd say. It doesn't even have any erosion coming in. It's just a solitary tile of hills, perfect for a Seowon. I mean, it wants to be isolated. It can't be much more isolated than a single tile in the ocean, now can you? But that's just it, right? When you're having to build a Seowon, unlike pretty much any other district, any other specialist district, you have to account for not only one tile, but 7. Because, of course, you want each of these tiles specifically to not have a chance of being built a district. Now, if we go over here, you can see I am relying on help from Lautaro, even though I would have wanted this land myself anyway, wasn't to be, that because I built my Seowon here, if he builds literally any district on this tile, this Seowon automatically gets worse. It starts and only, the maximum dream of a Seowon is 4, and while, you're going to struggle getting higher than that for a lot of your districts, you definitely can get some of your regular campus districts with a bunch of rainforests, volcanic soil, mountains, and so on, reefs, to be higher than 4. And that is something that Korea will never see. Korea will, well, unless you build a government plaza adjacent to it, isn't that a weird caveat for that? Yeah, it's minus for every district, but the government plaza is +1. That's confusing in itself. So it's incredibly confusing, so I certainly wouldn't recommend anyone new trying to get used to this. There's way too many, caveats and requirements to get your head around. I would much advise anyone who wants to do science to avoid Korea, like the plague, at least until they're more comfortable with district planning. And they can never see greater than 5. Never greater than 5. Yeah, but I mean, if you have, I haven't done one of my games. I had a situation where there were mountains every single tile around one buildable tile. Now, that would have to be hills for this particular campus, unlike just a regular holy site or something. But, you can see where all the problems come from, right? For starters, if we have a look, hill. 69 results, yes, but how many is available to me? Now, bear in mind, yes, there's great density here, But how many of those can I use? I can use this one, and I can use this one, and I can use this one. But I can't use all of them. I can't just pile them in. Like, if you have a good area where there's like a natural wonder or something, you can pile your holy sites in, and hell, they even like it. There's adjacency, right? But obviously these, you have to be very careful as to where you build literally anything else. So I built Mausoleum of Halicarnassus adjacent to the Seowon because it can go there without any sort of problems. And then if we have also a look on the hills, you can see I've built 2 cities which each have only one possible viable tile to even build a Seowon, let alone a good one. Fortunately, they are separated. Fortunately, they don't have to worry about erosion, because mind you, I've tried building flood barriers, and even in my best games, it's always too late. It really not user-friendly, really not beginner-friendly, and really just kind of awkward in general. Speaking of awkward, this silver is kind of ruining this, but whatever, it's fine. But you get my point. It's much easier to build observatories, and in the right map, it's much easier to satiate and build strong observatories. And I don't use Heroes Mode, but I'm sure Heroes Mode could help with that quite well as well. Isn't there a Nancy or something that you can kind of spawn on particular locations, additional plantation style, what's it called? Luxuries to dot around your observatories? Like, I am not a fan of these Seowons. Now, I can understand that 4 is a good base to work with, but holy moly. Like, the lengths that one has to go to, let alone it being on hills. Hills and isolation. It's hard to come by, you know? And, again, if we have that lens on, I was thinking about maybe building one, but there's a whole bunch of land here that you can't build any. It's not great. There's one hill in this region. We take this area. So I made sure to reserve this one to this particular city so that it doesn't have to take this one's only possible solution. It is not comfortable. And I don't even think it's that strong. Because like I say, you can definitely get stronger than 4. If you just find any pair of hills, volcanic soil, reef, and dot in a triangle 4 districts around it, you've got your 4 already in any other civ. It's very strange. Also, another thing about Seowon, let's have a look at it. It doesn't gain any benefits from anything. It doesn't gain benefits from any of those things I was talking about. You know, the reefs, the mountains, the volcanic soil. It doesn't care about anything. Like, that's not great. Like, people love this thing, and it's really not that great. I just want to make that abundantly clear. Just because something is a popular idea doesn't necessarily make it true. These Seowons are awkward to build. They're awkward to build for your entire city. They require you to reserve effectively 7 tiles around them. They're not even that amazing when they're at their best. You're subject to potential dangers like this to reduce it at any point in time. It's just give me a regular campus. Or an observatory. I quite enjoyed using Lady Six Sky. I was sad about the mountains, but certainly nowhere near as sad as I am about this nonsense. Like, I mean, it's just awkward. Anyway. No, they're killing Geneva! And we just so happen to be suzerain of Geneva. Which, as is clear, is one of people's favorite city-states for science. Giving plus 15% science if you are not at war with any civilization. Which, as you know by now, I can't stand domination in this game, and I'm very glad to suffice that one. But it's not my favorite city-state. My favorite city-state is Antananarivo, because in the culture game, you're almost always, I don't think I've ever not satisfied its particular requirement, which is to get great people, because obviously you're going to get a lot of great people if you're building a strong faith economy and a strong gold economy, and getting a lot of writers and such with all the theater squares that you obtain. So that does 30% at max. This only does 15. Everybody goes crazy on this, and they don't seem to really care about Antananarivo. And I'm just like, I'm not ready yet to do a city-state tier list, but holy moly, when I do, I need to set the record straight, because what the hell is going on here? Anyway, one thing I wanted to talk about these two, other than how much I prefer Antananarivo, is that Antananarivo is really nice, because it shows you in here, this little tab that I love coming down, text box, that it shows you Antananarivo at the bottom if you have Season 2 of it. Now, obviously, we don't in this game, but you will see other culture games that we do, especially if you look at my Sundiata Keita game, which was the first culture game that I did a video of, my first ever culture victory, which it wasn't Deity. It will show you at the bottom plus like 20%, 30%, and the number that means, that reflects, which is great. You don't get any of that with Geneva. Why? I have Suzerain of Geneva, and it doesn't show it here. It just shows my cities. Why does it show me the 15% from Geneva? Just such a strange oversight. Especially when they know how valuable this is. That's why they put it in the game, right? Therefore, they know that I want to know that information, so why don't they show it? I just don't understand. Anyway, something to be wary of. Hello there! Well, we're in middle to late game now, and we are, of course, at the spy stage. I do really like spies, especially for siphoning gold. I think that's everybody's go-to, isn't it? Especially when it's the easiest mission to do to train them up. And we have our first spy settled here in Madrid, and it's waiting its assignment. It has no promotions yet, so we need to build it up first if we want to do anything else like stealing tech or even sabotaging production for later space races and such. So we're going to start with siphon funds, but one thing I want to talk about here is the projected value of what you get versus the actual value you end up getting. Over the course of the game, usually, though there obviously are going to be exceptions, the amount of gold you can get from cities tends to increase. Every single civ is kind of getting stronger. It's a culmination of all the efforts of turns before. You're going to get more money out of it. So it's very interesting to see that on a small scale, because it only takes 4 turns, as it were, and potentially less if you get linguist or things like that, for a spy to finish his mission. And yet in those 4 simple turns, especially in an online speed game, maybe this is not as evident in the standard speed, you will see quite a difference between the 396 gold that we can attain right now and the amount of gold that we're actually going to be able to attain by the end of it. It kind of seems strange that it would give you any other value than the value that you requested for, more or less. But I mean, I'll always take more. Why not? I mean, it's not going to hurt me, is it? It's great to have more gold. So let's just see how that works. Let's accept the mission. Alright, welcome back. We're 4 turns further on than before. It was turn 122, it's now turn 126, and while I have saved this point in the middle of this turn, so unfortunately we're not going to get that nice plaque that says all the details of the spy mission. Remember, it was 396 that were projected? This, thankfully, tells us that your agent, the one that we just assigned, Zhonghwan, we should have made note of the name, I don't know if you did, I didn't, succeeded in siphoning 444 gold from the city of Madrid. Now remember, it was Madrid, we know that much. Which is like 50 more than the 396 we were originally told. Now, Zhonghwan is obviously our only spy, so we can obviously conclude that nobody else, no other spy was this. This was the spy that we were using, whether we remember the name or not. But it just goes to show how interesting that is, because hopefully it's never a bad thing. I know cities themselves, you know, they tend to like fluctuate up and down in terms of how much money they're offering when you do a spy mission of siphon funds. I don't know of any case, I haven't come across, you know, of any case whereby I've lost gold from the projected amount, but hopefully that doesn't happen. I still think it's very strange either way. I mean, it's just something to bear in mind. I think you don't really care too much about the 50 compared to whether the mission was successful and whether we can get our much desired promotion. Go for rocket scientist just in case we need to use it. But you know, it's still quite an interesting part of the process, I'd say. Okay, late game here, and you join us as we've just acquired Grace Hopper, who is a great admiral that will allow us to get 2 free technologies. Now, before we select that, I want to have a look at our tech tree. We have a few of our technologies that we want to get acquired already. We've obviously acquired a lot of boosts with our spies, and we want to hopefully target the most important techs, both for the skill tree itself, as well as the missions that we are about to embark as we are finishing our spaceports. So that would be nice to get nanotechnology, as you see there, to be able to get the launch Mars colony, which is the 3rd step towards the science victory, and so on. So let's see what this gives us.
It ascends from the earth to the heaven, and it again descends to the earth, and receives the force of things superior and inferior.
So we got ourselves smart materials. That already is really nice, because that gives us the final, right? Wins the science victory when it arrives. So that's definitely going to be important for us.
Many rules.
And we indeed got nanotechnology as well.
Nanotechnology. This produced a lot of good and a lot of bad.
A lot of things can be misused. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about that because it was this moment that made me wonder. Is pre-selecting techs in a tech tree ever relevant to the techs that you get from boosts such as the Great Admiral? The answer is no. I was just lucky that I got my nanotechnology and smart materials. It was very fortunate that we were able to acquire these things because they're very important to our overall game plan. But it is more just a sheer coincidence than it is actually reliable. I would have honestly thought it would be a cool thing if the game did have such a thing whereby you could earmark, as I have 1 and 2 here, what technologies you want boosted. I don't think it necessarily would break the game, but it would be a cool way to kind of like leverage those particular units. Maybe they'll think about it in Civ 7? I don't know. Okay, we're into the latter stages, and I want to demonstrate the power of the Royal Society, and particularly how it relates to the amount of builder charges of the builders that you're using. Anyway, we have here 2 builders going for the Launch Exoplanet Expedition mission, which requires a total of 1,050 production. We have here a 6 charge builder and a 3 charge builder, which is convenient because that is double the other. So let's see their effect, shall we? First, we will try by sacrificing the 3 charge builder. It has given us 220 production. Now we will remove the Launch Exoplanet Expedition. It's quite the tongue twister. For something else. It doesn't really matter what that is, just that it is something. So that we can have a flat number going into it. We know how much the last one gave us. The last one gave us 220 production. Let's see how much next turn the 6 charge builder gives us, and how much more that is. Bear in mind, you can use builders whether they've already been used for something else or not. As long as they have charges, they use the remaining charges that they have on the project that you dedicate them to. Now, we have this 6 charge builder. We'll remove the sewer. 220. Let's see how much more this gives us to the 3 charge builder. As you can see, it's gone up exactly double to 440, the power of other things, from a 6 charge builder. So you can very clearly see that it's a direct correlation between the number of charges a builder has and the amount of production it gives you through Royal Society. So you definitely want to build Royal Society and get those builders working. Okay, we're now in the final part of the science mission, and as you may know, that means off-world missions. We have a whole bunch of off-world missions set up, and they're about to go off next turn. We have the Lagrange at our cap, and we have a whole bunch of terrestrials in a whole bunch of spaceport-filled cities across our empire. So let's pass a turn, shall we? Currently, of course, moving at a miserable 1 light year per turn, but that's about to improve, right? There we have it! Look at it go! Woo! Off into space it goes. There's the Lagrange one. Even though they are slightly different missions between Lagrange and the Offworld or terrestrial, they have the exact same video, so I don't think we necessarily need to see it again. The difference is how it looks cool that we can see our own other districts and even wonders and such alongside it, and depending on where it is. It's quite nice. Is that Mausoleum Halicarnassus? Is this that one? I'm not sure. But whatever that is, holy site there and here as well. I do like that. It's nice and like brings a little bit of charm and character and individuality to each one. But other than that, we might as well just skip them. So that was an awful lot of off-world missions, eh? That's got to be doing a huge amount of work to our wonderful final Mars expedition. What? 2 light years per turn? But it should be at least 7, right? Well, no. Because something that I personally forgot, but I hope you guys can remember, is aside from the Lagrange project, which does require 30 aluminium, and we only have 10 at the moment. This one, once completed, the city's power requirements will increase by 5. It will also increase the speed of our exoplanet expedition by 1 light year per turn as long as the city is powered. Hence why, since I haven't powered any of the other cities up, it's not actually contributing to our value. But have no fear, there's an easy solution just as long as you know it. And that is the wonderful industrial zone. Its logistics project will provide the city with full power while active. So as long as we just go around, let's put a second one down so it doesn't stop, and give our cities that we have the spaceports and the terrestrial projects up, just starting. Amar can join in, but it's not really relevant. Just starting these projects will make all of the difference. Because, let's face it, we've done the hard work. We don't need these cities really to be doing anything anymore. We're right at the end of the game. The only thing that matters now is to complete this project. So if they're busy completing this project by having their production line filled with industrial logistics projects, so be it, right? I think it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier, and in some cases the only real way if you don't have good access to aluminium, because you need a lot of it, and it's quite expensive, and you're not necessarily going to find other people to trade it with. bear in mind that honestly, going forward, this is arguably the most feasible way of getting those extra light years and accelerating your project. So, we pass the turn, and we'll see what value we have next turn. And now, if we go over in the new turn to this, we can see that we're traveling at a whopping 7 light years per turn. So the game's going to be over in, 3 turns? That, to me, is a far better deal than having to scrounge up a whole ton of aluminium, investing in a whole bunch of encampments to stock it, in order to also have the fortune of having aluminium naturally on your empire, which, as you can see from this game, isn't very big at all. I think this is the better play. Anyways, that concludes yet another game of Civ 6. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content. We've got so much more to do. I have more videos to show you, I have more games to play through with you. I have more tutorials to demonstrate and show how to play this wonderful game. But till next time, everyone, goodbye!
Much as our ancestors did ages ago, we thrust forward into the unknown. The first pioneers set forth on an uneasy course. And yet once again did our people thrive. Now, under your leadership, we plot a new course and make another world our own.